Welcome to I Am a Hebrew, learning biblical Hebrew through the book of Jonah, class number 5. This class is brought to you by the Seattle Kollel, seattlekollel.com, SEA. That's again SEATTLEKOLLEL.com. If you'd like to go there and make a tax-deductible contribution to the Seattle Kollel, you can do that. You can visit my website, rabbirafimallet.com. I am Rabbi Rafi Mallet, also known as Everybody's Rebbe. If you would like to join us in the virtual studio for future classes, please email me at rabbirafimallet@gmail.com. If you would like to shop for Art Scroll products and simultaneously support this channel with a commission from any purchases you make, please go to artscroll.com/Rebbe Rafi, REBBIRAFI. If for some reason that link does not work, as some people have informed me that they have had some technical difficulties, please let me know so I can let them know on their end to fix it. It works for me, it works for them. For a couple of people, it hasn't worked, so I want to get that sorted out. In the meantime, feel free to try that link and let me know what happens. RabbiRafiMallet.com. We are streaming not only from my own YouTube channel and on Facebook, but we are streaming also from Jacob Federici's channel. We've been syndicated to multiple channels, which is super exciting. So we are in the book of Jonah, chapter 1, verse 4. Now, I'm going to just add to the screen right now the links page. Now, the links page, let me enlarge it. The links page is linked in the YouTube live chat as a pinned comment. It should also be in the class description. It should also be in the email or WhatsApp message that was sent out to my group. And if you'd like to be on my email list or my WhatsApp group, please email me at rabbirafimallet@gmail.com. Okay, so we're looking at the sheet. You can see I made some updates to it. We're going to click through to the linear translation worksheets. Click on that, click through, enlarge that, share that tab, enlarge this. Not that we need to. Remember, here we have to make a copy. In order for you to write on your sheets, you're going to have to make a copy. You go to File, make a copy. Up here, File, make a copy of Jonah worksheets. Okay. I'm just going to add to the name here class 5 just to differentiate it from all the other ones copies that I make every week. But you make a copy, or you have your copy already from last week. Well, you can't use your previous copy because I updated the original, and the updates will not show in your copy. So you have to recopy it. I'm sorry, that's a little annoying, but I'm updating it as I go. So when we're looking at the worksheet, this was verse 1, verse 2. Last week we did verse 3. It was this doozy, nice long verse. And then now we're getting to verse 4. I'll enlarge this text, see a little better, and make it as visible as possible. Okay. We have a few people with us on the YouTube. We have A, who says Shalom, Shalom A. We have T Bishop. And we have Cookie Monster. Good to see you. Shalom. You're funny. Okay. Any questions or comments before we begin? Now's your chance. And of course, at any time during the class, you are free to interrupt. I'm going to read the verse in Hebrew with the traditional cantillation, the tune, which I left the cantillation marks in. Again, this asterisk is not a cantillation mark. When we get to it, I'll explain why I put a star here. Okay. The verse says this: Vadonai heitil ruach gedola el hayam vayhi sa'ar gadol bayam v'ha'aniya chishiva lehi shaver. And of course, the question is, what does all that mean? before we go any further, there is a lot here that we already learned. And I want to try this week something a little different. Why don't we go and find all the things that we already know? Let's put in the stuff we know and leave out the stuff we don't know, and we'll fill it in. Okay, so let's do the easy stuff first. We'll start with the first part, Va Hashem. We have the prefix Vav and Hashem's name. Okay, prefix Vav, as we established before, means, go ahead, anyone who wants to say the answer.
And Hashem.
Oh, prefix of and Hashem's name. So Va Hashem and Hashem. And Hashem. Okay. Hatil is new, so we're going to leave that out for now. Ruach is new, so we're going to leave that out for now. But Gidolah, we had Gidolah already. If we go back to verse 2, where God says to Jonah, get up, go to Nineveh, Ha'ir HaGidolah. So we said Ha'ir is the city, right? And HaGidolah, if you have your notes from that week, you may remember what it is. Does anyone remember what Gidolah is?
Great or big.
Great or big. Thank you, Abigail. So let's put that in. So Hashem something, but I have the this yellow corresponds to the second yellow box here. A great something. So Hashem something, a great something. Okay. El Hayam. So without Yum, which we haven't learned yet, El we had, and Ha we had. Right? Because we had already in the first verse when God speaks to Jonah. So what did it say over there? It said, Vahi devar Hashem El Yonah ben Amitai. And the word of Hashem was El Yonah ben Amitai. El means, who's going to make the announcement?
Two.
Thank you. El means two. So Hashem something, a great something. Two. Okay. And the prefix Hey we had also when we had Ha'ir HaGadolah. And I already gave it away what it is. So we have again the prefix Hey here. Go ahead. What's prefix Hey? Students? Anyone remember?
The.
Okay. To the Yum, something. Okay, we'll leave that for now. Some of you might know it, but bear with me. We're going to imagine we're just never seen any of this before, except for what we've seen before. So, and Hashem something, a great something to the something. I'm making great progress here. Vayhi. Okay. So Vayhi we had in the very first verse. Vayhi devar Hashem. Who's gonna let us know what Vayhi is?
Was and there was.
Oh, so someone says, and there was. So you're getting a little ahead. But we established that the Vav is and the Yud prefix. What was our more basic translation for the Yud prefix?
Is it he?
He or anyone?
Are you talking about he will as in future tense?
Okay, he will future tense. That's true. But the he could be a he or it could be another word in English. It. Because he and it are really the same in English. It's just there's in Hebrew, excuse me, because there's a Hebrew it masculine and there's it feminine. So it masculine is like he. Sometimes it's the masculine it is a person, and we say he in English, and sometimes the masculine it is not a person, it's an it, but either way it's the masculine. So and this would be and he was or and it was. So when once we get to what comes next, Sa'ar Gadol, part of that we know. Let's say Sa'ar we don't know for now, but Gadol we do know. So once we identify what the it is, we'll modify the translation to accommodate. But let's say for now, we could go with, and it was just for simplicity. And it, oh, I messed it up. I changed the color. Let me go back. I want to do one at a time. And we'll do, and it, try not to capitalize it, but it keeps capitalizing it automatically. And there we go. It was. Now we'll get back to it and modify it a little bit, but let's just plug in what we know. Okay, there was a Sa'ar Gadol. Now here we have Gadol, and here we have Gidolah. Just for those who've been paying attention, what's the difference between Gadol and Gidolah? Why are they different? It's the same shoresh.
Male or female?
Masculine, feminine. That's right. Here Gadol is masculine, and here Gidolah is feminine. Why? Because we learned the rule that the adjective will always match in gender and number the noun that it's describing. So Sa'ar is masculine, so Gadol is masculine. Ruach looks masculine. We said one of the telltale ways to know if a word is masculine or feminine is if it ends with the kamatz hey, like the word Gedolah ends with kamatz hey, or it ends with a taf. That's a sign that it's feminine. There are exceptions, however. We learned one exception was the word ear, city, which we spoke about back in verse 2, which was class 3. Here's another exception, ruach. Now, if Spooky is on the chat, and I don't know if he is, I haven't seen him yet. Spooky has pointed out to me something that the word ruach sometimes is feminine and sometimes is masculine. I was walking around thinking ruach was always feminine because that's what I was taught in school, and in modern Hebrew, that's how it is. But if you look at different appearances of the word in Tanakh, you find that sometimes it's paired with a masculine adjective and sometimes with a feminine one, which means there are masculine and feminine ruachs, and we didn't translate that yet. But the ruach is always used the same. Now, for the record, there are a number of words in Hebrew that they don't change their appearance. Sometimes they're masculine and sometimes they're feminine. And I think it's difficult to identify a rhyme or reason when which is which. I think there is a section of the Talmud in Kedushin which tries to analyze this. I can't say that I have a great understanding of it, and I'm not going to spend time on it now. But I'm just pointing out that here the word ruach, despite its appearance, is a feminine noun, and we'll learn what it means. And so it has a feminine adjective, gedolah, great. Here, sa'ar is masculine as it appears, and so the adjective gadol is also masculine. And as we said, gadol is great. So it was a great sa'ar, and it was a great sa'ar. Okay. Fine, let's leave that for now. Now, ba. We are going to learn something new about this, but in the past, when we encountered the bet prefix, did we encounter the bet prefix? I'm not yeah, we did. We had it over here. So now that you're all experts in the bet prefix, maybe someone will tell me what it means, the bet prefix.
It means with or in.
With or in, okay? So let's just because we're not sure yet, we'll translate as an inner with. But you'll notice that I cheated a little bit, and I made 2 lines here because there's something more. And I didn't tell you what it is yet, but that's upcoming. Is why does this get translated as 2 words, and what is that second word? Okay, bear with me, but so far we know bet prefix. Okay, let's move on. This we should know. V'ha'oniya, because we had it in verse 3, right? Where that Jonah got up to run away to Tarshish from before Hashem, and he descended to Yaffo, and he found Oniya. And we learned last week that Oniya is?
It's a boat, isn't it? I think.
It is a boat. That's right. So let's fill that in. But wait. Yeah, boat. It's true, you're right. But we have two prefixes over here, vav and hey. Anyone gonna help me out with the vav and hey?
And the
And the. Okay, vav and hey the. And the. So just from what we have so far, there's a lot we filled in just from previous verses. There's not a lot that's new here. We just in a few verses we've learned so much of the basic language that's going to repeat over and over. You know, each verse we get to, we're going to have 60% translated before we even start. So this is great progress. And I'm not even, ooh, I made the wrong color here. This should be yellow. We're not even done yet. Okay. We have the lamed prefix here. So go for it. People.
2.
2. Okay. Could be 2 or 4, honestly, but we'll, as we saw before, when you have lamed with the shoresh, it's very often the infinitive form. So to do this verb. Okay. So now let's see what we got all together. And Hashem something, a great something, to the something, and it was a great something in or with something something. And the boat, something to something. Okay. Not a whole lot of understanding, but the skeletal structure is there. Now, any questions before we continue? Any questions on what we've done so far? Somebody commented here. We have Stephen. Hello, Stephen. It's another Stephen. T. Bishop says, has to be some good reason why Ruach is feminine in some places and masculine in others. Might make a good study. I agree. I don't have a full mastery of it. I know that Spooky's working on it, so he's going to report back.
Just a quick question with the vav there. It's got that stress mark that you pointed out.
The top one.
The one that goes straight down looks like a little eye underneath the vav.
Yeah. That's like I said, it's a stress mark. It's an emphasis mark.
So how would you say that?
I would say it as follows. I'm gonna say it without enunciating Hashem's name, but I'll try to explain why it makes a difference. Okay, there's something you need to know. Do you see? You see right here above the vav in Hashem's name. Talking about Hashem's name a little bit now. Everyone loves that topic. You see this little diamond shape, or if it looks small to you, might look like a dot. Aside from the O vowel that the hey has, above the vav is like this diamond shaped dot. Can everyone see that? So that is a cantillation mark. As I mentioned before, these are the musical notes that prompt the reader how to sing the reading, right? So something about Hashem's name you need to know. We don't pronounce the 4-letter name, okay? The 4-letter name, I have entire videos on this, so I don't want to make this a topic of our class, but it's essentially, it's a contraction of it's from the hey yud hey shoresh, if you will. You know, the state of being verb. God's name is a contraction of past, present, and future. Haya, which means the past. Hoveh, which means the future, the present rather. And Yihya, I should say it differently. Haya means was. Hoveh means is in the present, and Yihya means will be. Was, is, will be. It's the concept of God being transcendent of time, omnipresent in all places and times, omniscient. It encapsulates God's transcendent nature, and that He is the source of all existence. All existence emanates from Him, as Maimonides points out, that God is the only essentially existing thing. Everyone else's existence is dependent, Our existence is dependent on God's existence. Without God, we don't exist. If God, so to speak, would cease to exist, so would everything else, because we only exist as an extension of his existence. But his existence is essential, and that all that is part of what this name encapsulates. But everyone has to understand that a name is not a definition, because God is not defined by his name. God has no definition, but so to speak, by definition, our concept of God is one that is unbounded and unlimited. A name, in as much as a name expresses a concept or an idea, is itself a limitation, an idea. So we have to understand that God's name is not essential to him either. It's just something that he reveals to us for us to relate to him. But behind that name is an infinite essence that we cannot comprehend or fathom. Okay, just that's important to note. Now, this name, though it's vowelized, is not meant to be pronounced as it's vowelized. These letters here are place markers for the name that we do pronounce. And if you're paying attention when I said the verse, so you heard that name. And that is, I'll sort of break up the syllables, so I'm not saying the name. The name of God that we say in place of the tetragrammaton, this 4-letter name, is we say Adonai, okay, which is from the word Adon, meaning Lord or Master. That's essentially the meaning of it. But you'll notice that the vowels are the vowels of the word Adonai. Okay, it happens to be because the vav prefix comes before the a gets shifted over to the vav. So it's va. This would be pronounced va do noi. Okay, but you have to imagine the yud is in place of the aleph of a do noi. The hey is in place of the dalid. That's why the hey has the o vowel, and the vav is in place of the nun. That's why it has the kamatz, noi, right? And the final hey is in place of the yud. This is extremely deep. There's very, very deep Kabbalistic secrets here. The Ramban speaks about this, Nachmanides, the verse, I don't know the chapter and verse offhand, but the verse where God is speaking to Moshe and he says, what's your name? And he tells him, I shall be what I shall be. And the word for I will be is Ehyeh, which is a reconfiguration of the letters in God's name using the aleph from the aleph name and the yud, which is the final letter of the name. And it's very deep. I can't go into it, but I want you to see, before I answer Stephen's question, that the letters here are just placeholders for the name that's spelled aleph, dalet, nun, yud, do, noi. And so the vowels here are the vowels of that name. That indicates to you that's the name that's enunciated, although we meditate on these letters. When we say that name, we have this in mind. And this concept that I described to you of God being transcendent and the origin of existence and the only essential existence, and all existence emanates from him, and past, present, future, he's above and transcendent of all time. And there's many more meanings there, but we're supposed to be thinking about that. So the text produces that name for our eyes to see and our mind to contemplate, while our lips pronounce the word meaning Lord. This is the ineffable name. It's the unpronounceable name. I don't want to say much more about that now because it's going to take up a lot of time. Okay, now that I said that, we have the cantillation above the vav. Now, the cantillation is also a stress mark. The cantillation marks also indicate where the stress on the syllables are. Okay, so when there will be cantillation, there won't be a stress mark because the cantillation serves as the stress mark. So this dot over the vav indicates that when I sing the word ado noi, so the emphasis is going to be on noi, but it's also going to be on the first syllable, a, which in this case is va do noi. Okay, but the syllable in between, the do sound, that do sound is not going to be emphasized. So it won't be vado noi, right? That do is going to be de-emphasized. But so again, some of you may not be getting what I'm saying, but some of you may be. When we speak in English or in Hebrew, there's a certain cadence to the way that we speak. Certain syllables get a stress and certain syllables don't get a stress. Those who get what I'm saying, get what I'm saying. So there's always, usually when you speak, there'll be the stress on one syllable and the next one is de-stressed and the next one is stressed. And then you can't really stress two syllables in a row. It's pretty much impossible. So whichever syllable gets the stress, the one before or after does not get the stress, right? That's the whole idea of stressing a syllable. So like the word syllable. Syllable. Is it syllable? Where I emphasize the la, then I've de-emphasized the sit and the bull, right? Syllable. So the sit is de-emphasized and the bull is de-emphasized. But if I say syllable, happens to be in English, sit is the emphasized syllable in syllable. And the second two are de-emphasized. They're the syllable, but it's not syllable, where I would emphasize sit and bull and de-emphasize lit. Syllable. Syllable. It's not syllable. The bull doesn't get the emphasis, right? So so I'm showing there three ways to say the word syllable. You could say syllable with the emphasis on sit. You could say syllable with the emphasis on la. Or you could say syllable with the emphasis in the beginning and the end, but not in the middle. Okay. So what's happening here is that the emphasis is on the first and last syllable, but not on the middle syllable. So it's vado noi, like that, with va emphasized and noi emphasized and do de-emphasized. Okay, so and not vado noi, right? That's what I'm trying to point out. Here's the emphasis and here's the emphasis. Here is not the emphasis. And that's what these marks mean. Okay, that was a long answer to a short question, but I wanted to be clear. Have I been clear? Okay. David Ivans, is there any reason why this verse begins with a noun rather than a verb? I thought Hebrew tends to begin with a verb followed by the noun. Yes, it's not a rule. It's not a rule. Like there's no rule in Hebrew that says that the verses need to begin with the verb. Although you're right that it's often that way. And there is a reason for it. Generally speaking, and I'm not necessarily prepared to talk about this now, but there's different kinds of past tense. I'm sorry to go on this tangent. There's past tense, like you're telling a story in sequence. So you go, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Everything happened in the past. But as I tell the story, each thing that I said happened later than the thing I said first. Whatever said first was the earliest, and then this, and he said, and he walked, and he went, and he did, and he jumped, and he ran, and he, whatever. That's all sequential. But sometimes I'm going to say, and he had done this, so that I'm indicating that something also happened in the past, but it happened before what I already said. He was running and he had put in his pocket a coin. So now I know that even though I told you about the coin after, but I'm indicating that it happened before. So there's like, I don't know the technical terms for these things in English, but there's different kinds of past, right? So that's in Hebrew also. So what David Ivans is indicating over here is that the alternative to Vahashem Heitil, and God did this verb we're going to learn, is to say Vayatel Hashem. That would be the normal way, where the verb comes first and then the actor. But what I wasn't going to pay too much attention to this, but the reason that these forms vary is because there's like an indicating of like, did it happen before? Is it happening right now in the story? Is it happening constantly? Or did it just happen once and stop? And I don't want to go into that, but I do want to just answer and say that's why you'll find these variations in the way the verbs are expressed, of sometimes the verb and then the noun, sometimes the noun and then the verb. It changes what type of past tense we're talking about. But I don't want to get into it. Anyway, we have to learn something today. We learned a lot, but we have to learn this verse. Okay, I hope that is satisfying enough for now. Okay, so, and Hashem Hatil. So let's learn about Hatil. Hatil is a new shoresh. Now, as we know, we only see 2 of the shoresh letters. There's a missing one. What is the missing shoresh letter? So let's peek in our glossary. Okay, we'll go over to our glossary. Open up the glossary. I'll enlarge it. Right? And I put it in alphabetical order, but if you don't know the missing letter, you might know where it is in the order. But as we go down, I'll point it out. Okay, we added some new verbs to our shoresh glossary. It's over here. This is it. Nun tet lamed. You could sort of enunciate as natal if you want. Natal is a funny verb. Okay, and that's why I put a star on that other sheet. It's a funny verb because it means to take up, but it could also mean to throw or to cast, which almost seems opposite, because taking up is I'm taking it like towards me, presumably, and to throw or cast it, I'm moving it away from me. So we're going to explain now why these two can live simultaneously together. Okay, so we'll go back to let's go back to the worksheet. Let's go back to the worksheet. Okay, Hashem Hatil. So I have a star. Now the star is going to teach us about something called the causative form. Okay, here we have the causative form. Causative form. This is complex and it's hard to digest. And I really don't. This is one of those things where it's going to take practice till you get used to this. I'm going to say a lot of technical things right now that you're not going to remember. But as we get to it again and again, and I remind you, remember this, remember we talked about this once, it'll start to coalesce in your mind. But I'm going to plant the seeds right now. In Hebrew, there are conjugal forms. Conjugal forms means there are different ways that you conjugate the verb that modify the meaning of the verb. And I'm sure we have equivalent things in English. In Hebrew, these are called binyanim. Binyanim are the conjugal forms. There are 7 binyanim. There are 7 different conjugal forms. I'll just give you an example. You have an active form and you have a passive form. Active form means, let's say me, I'm doing the action. It's the active form. Passive means the action is happening to me. I'm not acting, I'm being acted upon. So there's the active form and the passive form. And then here we're going to talk about causative form. Causative form means I'm not doing it directly, but I'm causing it to happen. Okay? So this causative form of the verb in Hebrew is known as hif'il. Now listen carefully and hold on. You'll notice that I highlighted 3 letters in hif'il, which happen to be the shoresh of the word hif'il. And here it is, pei, ayin, lamed, which spells the word po'al. Po'al means a verb, literally means a verb. A po'al is a verb or an action. Lif'ol, the infinitive lif'ol, means to act. Okay? So an action or a verb in Hebrew. So when I want to demonstrate in Hebrew, the way that we demonstrate how a binyan or how a conjugal form looks, I take that shoresh, po'al, the shoresh that means action, and I conjugate it in the form that it would appear if that was the shoresh of the word. So I take po'al and I conjugate it in the causative form, and it looks like this, hif'il. And that's the name of this conjugal form. Causative form in Hebrew is called hif'il. So how did I conjugate it? I put the he in front and I stuck an e at the end. So it became hif'il. Okay? Hif'il. So with the shoresh pa'al, the causative form becomes hif'il. For our shoresh natal, the natural causative form would be, if I apply the same algorithm, I put the he in the front and the e at the end, and I get hintil. Hintil. However, as we learned, this letter, nun, will often be left out. These sort of flexible letters will sometimes drop out of the verb form, and I'll get hitil. So hetil is the causative form of notal. Okay, we'll see where I'm going with that. And hatil that we have in our verse is an alternative vowelization of the causative form. Hetil and hatil, to my knowledge, mean the same thing. I'm not aware that there's a difference between hetil and hatil, but maybe there is, but it's too subtle for this discussion. So the point I'm making is that hatil here is causative of notal. So since notal in its active form means to take up, like we have Orthodox Jews will take up the 4 species on the festival of Sukkot. We take the lulav, that's the palm branch, the etrog, the citron, the hadassim, the myrtle branches, the aravot, the willow branches, and we bundle them together and we take them up. And that is a commandment in the Torah that you shall take up the 4 species on the festival of Sukkot on the first day. So when we make the blessing before performing this act, we say, "Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the world, who sanctified us with our commandments and commanded us al nitilat lulav, on the taking up of the lulav, the palm branch and its accompanying species." So nitila, taking up. Now some people have this question: when I wash my hands ritually, Rabbi, for us Jews, and we make the blessing on the washing of the hands, it's al nitilat yadayim. We're blessing over the taking up of the hands. Nitilat doesn't mean washing of the hands; it means the taking up of the hands. So what's with that? So there's two understandings there. Number one is that you're actually supposed to lift up your hands after you pour the water over them. You're supposed to lift up your hands to heaven. It says as though you are receiving a gift. You know, you could imagine that God is bringing down some spiritual blessing and you've sanctified your hands to be able to receive them. And you're actually supposed to physically raise your hands when you say this blessing. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the world, who sanctified us with its commandments and commanded us to take up the hands. You actually lift up your hands. But why do you do that? It's also representative of the fact that through the washing of the hands, we've elevated our hands spiritually to be able to perform the duties that we'll perform with our hands, the taking up of the hands, the elevating of the hands. So, notal, taking up. But if I put it in causative form, hatil, I mean, I'm causing it to be taken up. So I'm not myself taking it up. I'm making it be taken up. So this is translated as casting, because like, imagine like, when you think of casting, what do you think of? Like casting a line. You know, the fisherman, what does he do? Cast a line, what does he do? He makes that fishing line go way up in like this arcing angle. He causes it to go up, right? That's the idea of hatil. Now, in speaking of, we're not speaking of it, but we are speaking of it. Modern warfare in Israel, where you have rockets coming into Israel from Gaza, from the Palestinian territories. A rocket in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, is called a teal, because it's a projectile. It goes up in an arc. So it's being caused to be taken up, if you will. It's caused to move upwards. So that's why the causative form means to like cast something. It's like throwing it upwards in an arc. Okay. So although there are some differences of opinion how to translate it here, I don't want to take the time because we're running out of time. But Hashem did what? Hatil. He cast, caused to go up, if you will. A great ruach. Now, what is a ruach? A ruach is a very easy Hebrew word. So if somebody knows the definition of I have to, we're on the right tab. If someone knows the definition of ruach, I'll let you call it out.
Wind.
Wind, good. Ruach is wind. If you look in the glossary, and by the way, the Quizlets have all been updated. So you can find these words in the Quizlet, which is linked on the links sheet, and you can practice all these words. Also, I put on the sheet there on the glossary, it also means spirit. Ruach could also mean spirit. So not just physical wind, but also a spirit. Fine. Hashem cast a great wind, El Hayam, to the Yam. Now, if anyone knows what Yam is, I'm gonna yum 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 in my tongue. I hope not. I hope you don't have a yum in your tongue. If you know what yum is, I'll let you call it out now.
Day?
Oh, close. Yom with an O
water.
sound
Pronunciation.
is there. And because I was saying with the Ashkenazic pronunciation, the comment says like an O sound. It's almost like an O sound. Yom. So it sounds like Yom day. But let's say I would say it with a Sephardic pronunciation, Yam.
So,
Anyone know what Yam
water.
is?
Water.
Someone said water.
Yeah.
So Mayim is water, but you're close. And obviously there's a relationship between Yam and Mayim, but more specifically, Yam is
Sea.
sea. Sea,
Yeah.
this sea. So to the sea. Now, in the glossary, you'll find that Yam also I defined as west, because directionally, when in the Tanakh, when the west is referred to, it's often refers to as Yam, because the sea was to the west of the land of Israel. So the direction of the sea, Yam, was a synonym for west. So here it means sea, but it also, the same word could mean west. Just pointing that out because we're learning the word. Those are two meanings of this word, sea or west. Fine. Starting to come together. Hashem cast a great wind to the sea. And it was a great sa'ar. Okay. Sa'ar is a hard word. It's not a super common word. And just for the sake of acknowledging that it's hard, we'll go to the glossary for this one. Okay. We'll go to our green words here. Sa'ar. I'll enlarge it. Okay. Sa'ar, as you can see here, it's in alphabetical order. Sa'ar is a storm. Okay. Now there's a difference between that. You'll see sometimes sa'ar and sometimes se'ara, the feminine form, se'ara. Sa'ara, they're sometimes masculine, sometimes feminine. We spoke a little bit before about ra and ra'ah, sa'ar and se'ara. What's the difference when it's masculine and feminine? I don't want to go into it right now because I don't think it's necessary for our discussion or our translation. But if somebody wants to know, maybe you could ask me afterwards, and I will share with you what I think is the difference between sa'ar masculine and se'ara feminine, which are both translated as storm. And it was a great storm, okay? And Hashem cast a great wind to the sea, and it was a great storm. Okay. It was a great storm by Yom. So I have bet inner with, and there's Yom again. Yom, which we saw here, is sea. Okay. In sea. Now, what's missing? What word is missing? You're an English speaker, and you want to make this a coherent sentence. And it was a great storm. Now, first of all, is it in or with? In context, is it in or with? Anyone?
I think it's in.
Makes sense in context to be in. And generally speaking, when you have like a dual possible meaning of a prefix, a suffix, a word, you have to use the context to determine it. Okay, you'll get the hang of it. This is one of those things you get the hang of it. Just it makes sense in context that it's this. That's the one that fits. Okay, it's not. There's not so much science to it. It's just the way the language works. So now I want to make this a coherent English sentence. What word is missing? And it was a great storm in blank sea. Anyone?
In
I want
the.
to guess
In the sea. And that's correct. And the question is that just implied? Is it an implied definite article based on context, or is it actually present? So I foreshadowed to you before that the prefix ba is more than meets the eye. So
Sorry.
yeah. Just a reminder, if you want to speak, and if you're not speaking, mute your mic. So here I added, let's go to the glossary for another moment here. In fact, I think it's already open in another tab, so I won't open it again. But here, if we go to our prefixes, So we have bet here is inner with. If we go down further, hey, where is it? I thought I added it. Maybe I didn't add it. It's my mistake. I was like almost sure I did. Did I add it to the wrong file? I don't know. Okay, it should have been in the prefixes. It's definitely in the Quizlet. Okay, maybe I added it to the Quizlet and not to the glossary. Well, add it right now. Why not? Let's add it right now. Insert row below. So we're gonna find out. In fact, before I do this, let me show you what I put in the notes. I put in the notes something called the Kalev letters, the Caleb letters, if you will. Kaf, Lamed, and Bet prefixes. Okay, you can call them the Kalev letters. Kalev is dog. Kalev is Caleb. You call them Bakol, however you want to arrange the letters. Bakol means in all. Doesn't matter. Whatever's a good mnemonic for you. What is the significance of these prefixes? When the prefix is kaf, meaning like, lamed, meaning two or four, or bet, meaning inner with, are vowelized with either the patach a, kamatz a, or segol e, the definite article the is indicated in addition to the prefix's regular meaning, so that ba, for example, would be inner with the, la, for example, would be two or four the, and ka, for example, would be like the, as opposed to just be, which would be inner with, li, inner with, or ke, like, li, two or four, be, inner with, ke, like. But if it's ba, ka, la, or even with an S sound sometimes, that indicates the definite article the. So we have, in this instance here, bayom, the ba is actually in the. Hope that's clear. Is that clear? Any questions on that? Someone asked, what is cast of Hashem? I don't know. I've never heard of that. So if you could clarify what you mean, I would be appreciated. Okay. Abigail, I see you. I'm sorry that you got dropped. You're back. You should be back now. Okay. So, Stephen, if you can clarify, I would love to answer. Okay. Almost there. It was going to get a little harder. Or maybe not. We have like one more major point, but two more things to learn. Okay. And the boat, chishiva. Here we have a verb. Here's the shorish. Chet, shin, bet. Chashav. Chashav, as we'll see in the glossary, and this is a pretty common shorish in Hebrew. Chashav, where is it? Here. Chashav is words having to do with thinking, thought. Machashava is a thought. In modern Hebrew, mechashev is a computer. It's like a thinking machine, if you will. Heshbon means a calculation, accounting, things to do with thought. Chashav. So the boat, chisheva, the boat thought, we're going to have to modify this, I think, because boats don't think. Okay. But let's leave it there for now. The boat thought. And again, you see oniya is feminine. So chisheva is feminine. Feminine noun, feminine verb. We've gone over that. Any questions, please feel free to speak up. Otherwise, please mute your microphone. And finally, lehishaver. This is more complex than it looks, but I'm going to translate it simply because it works well enough in English. Okay, I don't need to get into the complexity of the grammar here. In English, it works very simply. We have two and the shoresh shin bet resh, which, if we look at our glossary, I thought I put it in here, and apparently I didn't. I don't know what happened. Fine, we'll have to add it later, but it's in the Quizlet. It's in the Quizlet. Shavar shin bet resh. Does anyone know what it means?
It means to break up, break apart.
Right.
Broken.
Okay. I would say break.
Yep.
Which could be breaking up, breaking apart, but even break. Okay. So and the boat thought to break. Okay. So I have to euphemistically tweak that. But what we were left with at the end is Hashem cast a great wind to the sea, and it was a great storm in the sea. And here's where Cliff said, and there was, right? Because it was a great storm in the sea, and there was a great storm in the sea. Once I have that the noun here is the storm, so Vayhi, and there was a great storm. It just works in English better. It doesn't significantly change the meaning of the verse, but it just kind of sounds a little more normal.
Rabbi, I was just wondering,
like toward a great wind toward the sea, to the sea, toward the sea. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, rather than anthropomorphizing the boat as thinking, wouldn't you say something like the boat's crew, or not too many
Very
boats
good, very good,
so.
very good. So there is a dispute among the translators. Everyone translates it the same, but euphemistically, they want to understand what's the intent of the verse when it says the boat thought to break. So when I read it simply, like where my brain goes, it's like the boat like almost broke, or it was close to breaking. It was on the verge of breaking, right? And many understand it that way. Or I was thinking thought to break is that, like you're saying, the sailors on the boat thought that it was going to break. They thought the ship was going to break apart. Okay. So that's essentially here. I put in the notes some different meanings of some different translations of hitil here, which we said is the cast. We have from the Aramaic translation, arim, raised up. God raised up a wind. Hisia or himshich means to cause, to move, or to draw. Okay, be that as it may, it doesn't make a huge difference. Chishava, we have the Aramaic translation ba'aya, which means desired or sought. The boat, it's like saying the boat wanted to break or sought to break. It's like sometimes you're under so much pressure that rather than fight off the pressure, it's so hard that it's easier to just collapse than to fight against. That was the degree to which the storm was besieging the boat. The boat was under such pressure that it sought to break. Like that would have been a release of the pressure. It's very sort of dramatic imagery. Rashi said nidmit, which means it seemed. Chishava, it thought to break, means it seemed like it was going to break. It seemed that way. It appeared that way. That's the euphemism here, the idiom here of the Hebrew of it. Thought to break. It seemed like it was going to break. It appeared as though it was going to break. There was a thought that it could break. And others like Radak say it was the boat is a euphemism for the sailors on the boat. The sailors thought that the boat was going to break. So that basically
one other English translation that might be good here, or might be applicable, I don't know, is something that threatens to break apart, like the word threaten. Like it threatened to break apart. It's kind of like the way it
right. Right. It was like coming close to that point. So that's what's described as the thought, like the intent, like it's moving in that direction without having actually, as though it was planning to do it, it was on the horizon, on the cusp. So that's that brings us to the end of the verse. And Hashem cast a great wind toward the sea, and there was a great storm in the sea, and the boat thought to break. Okay. So I'll take any questions now on that or on any. Why did I take myself out of the stream by mistake? That's what I did. Okay. T. Bishop says the sailors. Yeah, that was like Stephen suggested that it could be a euphemistic for the sailors. And as I pointed out, there are commentaries that understand it that way. So it could either be the boat seemed like it was about to break, threatened to break, so to speak. That's, again, another idiomatic expression. Or it could be a reference to the sailors who thought the boat would break. Okay, any questions on that translation or on anything else we said tonight or on any other topic? No, nothing? Okay, it must have been crystal clear. Fine. So I guess we'll call it a night. And Be'ezrat Hashem, Oh, I think I understand what he was asking. What is cast of Hashem? Because it said, and Hashem cast a wind. So I think it wasn't clear to this individual, may not be a native English speaker. Not a cast like a physical cast. To cast in English means like to throw, right? Hashem like threw a wind toward the sea, if you will. He made a wind come up in the sea.
You were going to describe why we use a feminine version of surah versus sa'ar.
Oh, here sa'ar is masculine versus feminine.
Right.
So what I saw in the commentaries is that a windstorm is a se'ara, but a storm of when the waters are stormy. In other words, there's stormy winds and there's stormy water. A stormy wind is a se'ara. Stormy water is sa'ar. Why? I don't know. But we noticed that wind in our verse is feminine. So maybe because wind is feminine, a windstorm is feminine. And we saw that yam is masculine. So maybe because the sea is masculine, a storm of the sea is masculine as a sa'ar. That's, no one said that explicitly. I just read that se'ara is wind, sa'ar is water. Maybe that's why, the feminine is used for the wind and the masculine is used for the water, because wind is feminine and water is masculine. That's my suggestion.
Fascinating.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, Stephen says Toda Rabba. Okay, I guess I answered his question. Laila Tov. It seems rational only the sailors could observe or think this. Yes, but there's also a lot of euphemistic language, and there's a lot of anthropomorphism. So it's not beyond what we find in the text to anthropomorphize a boat, to say. And again, if Rashi's correct that it doesn't mean that it literally thought, but it seemed like an observer would think of the boat this way. It's not so far afield to read it literally. Okay, fine. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
As
Thank
Rabbi
you,
Shem
Rabbi.
on Hashem's help, we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Rabbi. Stay warm.
I'm going to try you too. Take care.